Okay, what you're going to see or hear now is from the Certificate of Embodiment Coaching. This is a session I did reviewing some of the sort of basic part of the course. I think it's a really good introduction to the fundamentals of coaching. And also, if you already know that, an introduction to what makes embodiment coaching a bit different. So for those who don't know, Certificate of Embodiment Coaching is our main flagship coach training course, teaching people to work with the body. It's about 50% of people are new to coaching and give them the basics. 50% already coaches, but we add, this specialism of embodiment. We really are one of the main people in the world for training that to coaches. So this session is at a point in the course where I'm reviewing some of the basics of what embodied coaching is, and I'm saying to the students, like, this is what we've just learned. Here's what makes the embodied part of that. So some of the core coaching capacities like listening and questioning. What's the embodied part of that? If you're listening on the podcast, it might not all make sense because sometimes I'm looking at the screen or, I'm asking participants questions. I haven't gone completely schizophrenic. There's about, I don't know how many students there were there, 50 students or whatever for this call. So that was the context. It's a little bit different. So I thought I'd add this introduction. If you are interested in training with us, the Certificate of Embodiment Coaching is twice a year now. We're about to end the early bird, the super early bird on it. So cheapest rate is like right now, if you're watching this or listening to this as it comes out. If you're hearing this later on, if you mail our customer service and say YouTube or podcast on their email, they might give you a little discount as if you were getting the super early bird, right? But if you want to get in there, it's basically now as of release on the YouTube and the podcast. If you want to get the best rate on that, it doesn't start until September, but it's good to get organized. It is a bit of work. It's 5 or 6 hours a week. It's not a light course. It's a real course. So good to get prepared. I would say plan ahead. We can give you all the time slots to put in your diary, that kind of thing. So embodimentunlimited.com, it's all there. You'll see it linked on the homepage, or just Google Certificate of Embodiment Coaching. That is where this session is from. That's the context. But as I was doing it, I was just thinking, this is just good information. So whether you do a course with us or not, I think if you're at all interested in coaching or embodiment, you'll probably find this a very interesting one. All right, welcome humans. Please put down whatever you've got in your hands. If you've got teas, coffees, breakfast, etc. Let's do a quick centering to begin. By the way, if I asked you right now, could you lead me through centering? If I picked on one of you, could you do it? Hopefully by now, all of you could do it. This is a key skill from the course. So what am I about to do before I do centering? Probably about to center myself, right? Yeah, good. ABC, become aware of your body. How do you know you're embodied? Balancing your posture and your awareness. Relaxing your eyes, your mouth, and your belly. And thinking of someone who makes you smile. Good. Very quick ABC. Welcome. So this session is mostly a practice session. Before we do that, it's going to be a little presentation and things going on. Last call for, actually, the London workshop's officially full, though we could probably squeeze in one more if you're a Keck student. So message me now if you want to come. If money's an issue, as ever, let me know. But we are officially full. Boheme isn't full. It's quite empty, aside from the Ukrainians and a few locals. So if you want a weekend in the loveliest place in Europe, literally, I think, then it's not too late to jump on a plane and come to Boheme. So let me know if you want to come to that ASAP. Also, Keck for September. Have you got a link, actually, Esther, to Keck, the Keck page? It's on the main page. If not, that is about to come to the end of the super early bird. So if you've got any friends, we like money because it keeps the lights on. That means we can pay people. So do tell your friends about that if you're enjoying the course. It's basically exactly the same course you're doing, but a slightly different time of day. So we've shifted the times a little bit. Okay, good. I'm noticing I'm in London. I'm not quite as well regulated as I normally am. I'm 7 out of 10. Well, I normally bring a 9 out of 10 to you guys, so I'm noticing that today. Yeah. How are you? Give me a sign. Thumbs, medium, not so good. It's gonna be a pretty chill session today. So yeah. All right, let's do a review. So Esther, can you timestamp this? Okay, so what I'd like to tell you in the next 10 minutes is a review of the first part of Certificate of Embodiment Coaching. We're actually going to separate this out into a video so we make sure everyone sees this, because I think it's really essential at this point in the course that we do a little review of the basics. So what we spent 8 weeks doing is your own embodiment. That continues with your personal practices. That doesn't end. It's just that 8 weeks is the focus, and then it continues in a slightly lighter way all the way through. If you just did that, you would be an embodied coach, but not an embodiment coach. See the difference? So if you were already coach trained and you were coaching people and you did the first part, did all the practices, you'd be a more embodied coach. Your coaching would radically change, and I would dare say improve, if you just did that. Okay. Now, the last few weeks is the sort of beginning of the middle. It's where we look at the basic coaching skills of coaching. All right. So these are, for those of you who are new to coaching, it's like, this is the fundamentals of coaching. For those of you who are experienced at coaching, always good to review, right? Beginner's mind. And it's the embodied version of those beginner skills, which might be slightly different. So this is where we have to be careful of the, I know this already trolls if you're an experienced coach. So if someone said to you, what is coaching? Would you be able to give them an answer right now? Hopefully, yes. Okay, hopefully, yes. So what's your current take on that in the chat while I'm getting the slides up? What if someone said, what is coaching? You're on a coaching course. What would you say? Sort of doing it now, aren't I? All right. So if you haven't come across this already, you missed a major section of the course, so definitely go back and review. I would say it's worth downloading a couple of podcasts or YouTube videos from different perspectives on this. So I might say, coaching is a humanistic methodology where we ask people questions to help them reach their goals, or some sort of official definition. But like most things that have substance, it's worth hitting it from different angles, because no one personal school has all the points of view on this. So I would say, just as a sort of relaxed bit of homework, if you want to, who likes YouTube? Like, I like YouTube, right? If you prefer Google or ChatGPT, you could ask ChatGPT to give you 5 definitions. Yeah, you could ask YouTube to give me 3 videos of basic definitions. Worth doing, okay, because they'll all have a slightly different angle on it. These are the basic skills that we have established on this. Okay, so the first one was contracting, and that is worth practicing regularly. Yeah, I still make mistakes with that, and I go, God, I wish I'd had a list. Why didn't I have a list? That was a bit silly of me. But basically, like, what are we going to do? A lot of the time when something goes wrong, in coaching, I look back and go, oh, I didn't contract that. Yeah, I didn't contract that. So, for example, let's say I interrupt the client and they get really upset. Now, sometimes I like to interrupt the client. I often say, I'm going to interrupt you. The reason I do that is so I know I'm doing it consciously and not just because I'm impatient, ADHD Mark. And if I've already contracted with them, that's something I do, they don't get upset. But if I just interrupt them without having contracted that, they might say, why are you interrupting me? It's a bit rude. Yeah. They're bringing assumptions from other things. So a lot of what contracting is clearing up assumptions. So if they've done therapy, their assumption might be, I'm going to talk about my childhood. And coaching is more future orientated, right? More future orientated. So that we have to clear up that assumption. They might have an assumption they don't have any homework. Well, actually, as an embodied coach, that's quite key. So I might say in the contracting is, I'm going to give you like 3 to 5 minutes of homework every week, each day. Are you okay with that? And, we'll design it together. So I'm not going to force you to do anything. Yeah. Basic skills, listening. So a counselor, like my mum, would train for 3 years just on that. And we've got quite a lot in common with counseling in a way as coaches, because it's a basically humanistic frame. That's the sort of main frame of most schools of coaching. I was a little different, but it still has a big influence from that. So don't think of that as like, oh yeah, I know how to listen. It's like, no. If you've ever been around someone who's like a nonviolent communication teacher with exquisite empathy or really exact paraphrasing, who can really say back to you what you said, and you go, oh my God, I feel so heard. Like, I've never been listened to like this. But there are people who are very, very good at this. So this is something I can certainly improve, but I think we can all improve. Goal setting is also just a key skill for coaching, in that coaching is about helping meet people's goals, right? Would we agree with that? And like base most definitions of coaching. So we have to help them set goals.
Yeah. And there's classic coaching questions like, what do you want to get out of today's session? And the reason they're classic is because they're good. They're classic for a reason because they're around that. Equally, if in a way, what differentiates us from simply, people who are good listeners is the quality of our questioning skills. So this is, in some ways, questioning is like the skill of coaching. This is the methodology of coaching. It's asking questions rather than just listening or analyzing or teaching or something else. It's mostly that as the key skill. Now, we're doing an embodied coaching course, so these are things are a bit different. We'll come to that in a minute. Yeah, ethics I put in here because ethics is also sort of a skill, isn't it? We tend to think of ethics as I don't know, obeying some rules, like sort of Ten Commandments style. That's in our culture quite strongly. Do not, thou shalt not do this. But if ethics is thou shalt or thou shalt skillfully, I'll give an example of this. Consent. We all think we know what consent is, but there are people like Wheel of Consent people who really study that. And if you've ever been around someone, I don't know, people in the kink community would be another. What we think of as consent is often we're slightly bullying someone or slightly leading someone. And it's not quite as simple as you might think to get consent. Real consent is a skillful thing. Like, I'll give you an example from embodiment. If someone says yes but goes into a fight or flight response, is that consent? Well, from the normal sort of simple point of view, yes, but from the point of view of an embodiment coach, I would say no. Like if the body's saying no while the words are saying yes, I listen to the body, or at least double check. So that is a skill. Another skill you've studied around this is cycles. So part of not being brutal is having a felt sense of the season, the rhythm. Imagine I started this session by saying, "Hello, everyone. Tell me about your biggest trauma." You'd all be like, "Ugh, it's too soon, it's too much," right? But if 20 minutes in, after some warm up and some stipulations, we could get into talking about that. So that's actually an ethical skill. Just makes sense. It's a slightly different way of looking at ethics than the normal sort of rules ethics, which is also good. It's also good to have some rules. I'm not against that. Normally we say rules, community, and feeling, the somatic side of things. And two of those, community and feeling, are skill based. Yeah, slightly different. What makes it embodied coaching, though, is in some ways we're asking you to do something above and beyond normal coaching. So if you did a normal coaching course or you've trained in a normal coaching course before, this is what you would do. So you would do contracting, but you wouldn't have to explain what embodiment is. You wouldn't have to explain that we have an ontological method and we're talking about being and we give homework, develop practices over time. You don't have to explain embodiment in contracting, but it's probably worth saying that you work with the body. Yeah. Much bigger though is the next few. So listening skills. Some people hear listening as a sort of auditory thing, right? We listen to the words. I mean, if they're a smart, I don't know, counselor or therapist, they would at least understand tonality. So when someone says yes, hopefully you're listening to the tension in their voice and not just the word. Yeah. I mean, I'm mostly listening to tone. I rarely listen to what people say, the words, not much at all. And I was one really good training for this was living in foreign countries where I didn't understand the words. Next time you're on holiday, try this. Really good embodiment coach training is when you can't understand the words because the words are sort of cognitively seductive. But if you don't speak Swahili or whatever, it's really you just left with the body. So we're listening to the client's body, and we have the two mechanisms for that. One is observation. So I might say, Beata's covering her mouth, and Adam's blink rate is, 7 blinks per minute or whatever, right? It's observing. But we also have felt sense. So I could look at Adam or Beata, they happen to be the two people in my little side camera thing now, and go, okay, how do I feel? Beata smiles and she moves, and I kind of resonate with that. And I think maybe she's a little bit embarrassed right now, and I'm feeling into that. Maybe she's pleased to be, I don't know, but I'm going to try to get a felt sense of that, right? So, that's the other tool we have. We're constantly listening to ourselves from the client's body. And you can only listen to the client's body with empathy through your own body, right? When people talk about the energy, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the resonance of another person. So this is quite tricky. Yeah. So I'm mostly attending to the client, but I'm always keeping some awareness of myself. Goal setting. Goal setting, I'm probably going to rename next year as the co-regulation session. So we use centering, and you hopefully you've just learned this as a way of helping people set better goals. Why? Because when people are stressed, they're stupid and sometimes a bit unkind and sometimes, well, nearly always not very creative. So stress makes people dumb, conservative, and mean. Yeah, so that's unlikely, bless you, Adam, that's unlikely to produce great goals. Unlikely to produce great goals. But more generally, as embodiment coaches, co-regulation is key to what we're doing. So if I was using Vieta as an example and she looked horribly stressed, right, I'm immediately going to, not just use it as an example, but I would also sort of, say, hey, it's okay, and turn your camera off if you want, and help her co-regulate, right? Like, I don't want to be embarrassed to the point where she can't learn. As a teacher, I want you guys in the space where you can learn. So if you looked, I don't know, let's say you all looked a bit bored right now, yeah, I could use my tone of voice and say, okay, everyone, we're going to do something new to wake you up, right? Or I could throw in a joke and say, this is a lot like when you kiss the back of someone's neck and the hairs stand on end, and a little sexy example. Then you go, oh, I remember having my neck kissed. And everyone's sort of wake. I use sort of sexy examples quite often to upregulate, or funny examples. Or it's like a beaver waving at, just silly examples, things that make you laugh and make you think. Yeah. So that's to upregulate. Or I could consciously upregulate you, couldn't I? I could say, right, everyone, take your hands. And I want you to imagine your left hand is an enthusiastic American life coach, okay? And your right hand is a Navy SEAL. And they just met at a motivational conference. And they're going to give each other a really hard high five and say, yeehaw! Quite like that example. I just made that up. It's good, isn't it? Okay. So now you're sort of consciously, explicitly upregulating you. And of course, the same thing goes with downregulation. Often with clients, it's downregulation because I need downregulate a bit from London, I think. Often with clients, it's downregulating because they're a bit stressed. Not always, but it's like they come, if they're not stressed when they come, as soon as they start talking about their problems, they get stressed out. Yeah. And most people come stressed these days. So often we're doing the downregulation, and that's implicitly, it's explicitly, it's goal setting. So do take that away that it can improve goal setting. But again, if we did no more content from the course, if you just learned to be a nervous system aware coach, you're an embodiment coach. If you did nothing else, no techniques, none of the other things we're going to be doing, if you were just going, I'm tuned in, I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at Fong nodding and Ivana and Chloe, and I'm going, how do you feel? Are you up? Are you down? Are you left? Are you right? I'm tuned into that. That's awareness. And then the second thing is, this is where we're not humanistic, we lead you. So my job as a teacher today is to keep you in the learning zone. My job as a coach is to keep someone coachable, right? So that might mean challenge, that might mean support, it might mean yin, it might mean yang, all those things. It might mean just unconscious co-regulation. It might just be being in a good mood myself, like I meditated, went for a walk this morning to kind of influence my own state in a positive way before teaching. It might be consciously asking you to do a centering technique. If all you learn from this course is how to regulate people better like that, brilliant. You're better than most coaches. Like I saw a coach and they just fire questions at someone and they were like, oh, like a rabbit in the headlight. And they were just clearly too stressed to think. And it was like the questions they were asking were brilliant, like top level questions, but they weren't the coachee who couldn't receive it. They were just too stressed. It was like too much to think about. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah. You still with me? All right, take a breath. You notice quite often when I'm teaching, I'll say, is this landing? How you doing? Do you get it? That's usually me taking a moment to look at you guys. I got a gallery view and go, they mostly seem like they're getting it. One more breath. Okay, so nervous system aware. Questioning may also involve the body base of this, what they're doing. So we may also say with the question, how do you do that in your body? Where are you doing that in your body? We're bringing to mind the body with the questioning. Okay. So what is the key to embodied coaching? We don't just listen to words. Observe bodies. I was just walking by Islington Canal and there's lots of people running by me in different ways. And some were very alpha and some were very floppy and some were very camp, frankly. And I was observing all these people running by me. And for me as an embodiment coach, that was fascinating. I saw all the personalities running by. Intuition is central. So we're listening to our own body, listening to the client. Co-regulation is king. We're absolutely like nervous system aware, but also influencing. So up-down regulation particularly. It's an ontological approach, meaning it's being-based approach. We're not just listening to their words. This is a little bit deeper. We're going, who is this person? How have they constructed their being? We're not so much analyzing the past, we're more looking for what do we do in the future. I would say the body-based approach is very deep. There are other good approaches out there, of course, like parts work or something. Lots of good approaches out there, but it's deep. We haven't got to the sticky part yet, the setting homework for clients, but we will later on. So that is the basics of embodiment coaching. You're welcome. Questions? Nothing new, right? That should just be reviewing the last few weeks. Does it make sense? Like if you left the course now, you could still, assuming you had practice and supervision, you could still be an embodiment coach, even without any other techniques, just from that. A, because you would be embodied, that's ontological, your being. But B, you'd also be at least aware of the state of the other person's nervous system, and you'd be using that for better goal setting, better coaching. Nice definitions. Esther, you can timestamp that as the end of the little video. I wanted everyone on the course to see this, so tell Alina to upload that back from next week as a video. Questions so far? No bad questions, anything you want clearing up, and then we're going to let you practice for 40 minutes. Anything, what was worth refreshing there? Anything you're like, oh good, I'm glad Mark underlined that in red. I'm aware some of you are sort of quite advanced and some of you are just beginning, so I wanted to sort of review all the basics and go, right, this is what we're doing. What was useful? What didn't you quite get before? I mean, if you're in the morning session this week, you might not have got the nervous system aware coaching. So it's not just using centering. I kind of added that after Christina's session. We talked about it and I was like, you know what, let's actually slightly angle this differently. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, embodied coach versus embodiment coach, co-regulation. Yeah, if you do get a chance to watch people speaking a language you don't speak, which is pretty easy in most major cities, give it a go. It's really interesting because you can hear the tonality, and you've got to be careful because some languages sound harsher than others or whatever, right? But it's really, really interesting practice. Like the tone and the breath, like if a client says, yeah, my goal is to get promoted. I mean, I'm gonna dig a bit fucking deeper. I'm like, really? Is that really your goal? Are you sure? Or maybe it's like anxiety. Oh, my goal is to get promoted. So maybe it is their goal, but they're scared of getting promoted. Okay, why are they scared of getting promoted? That's interesting, right? Maybe we need to do some more centering. Maybe we need to sort of, inquire and get intuitive about that. Keep them in the learning zone. Yeah. So the coaching zone is more or less the same as the learning zone. It's not safety. Too much safety would mean they are bored. Yeah. I know this is a bit of a Mark thing. So remember the good date. A good date is equal parts safety and danger. Okay. It's the pirate who will abduct you but not kill you. Okay. It's the vampire who won't kill you. It's every female romance novel. Okay. So that's good coaching. It's a little bit exciting. Okay. It's a little bit scary because I'm changing and something could move and I might get promoted. And oh, that's a little bit scary, but we're still learning. We're not overwhelmed. Yeah, you shouldn't be moving people towards overwhelm and trauma, obviously. Like this is the basic ethics as well, right? You see how they all fit together. Like nervous system awareness is ethics. Because if I'm pushing someone too hard, I remember once I got this wrong with an autistic friend. I didn't really know at the time, it was a long time ago, about autistic shutdown. And I was challenging her on something. And I was fucking right. But I didn't get that she was shut down. I thought she was listening. And her nervous system was in freeze, not in like receptivity. I'm used to people like arguing back when they disagree, but she wasn't. She just went into a freeze response. So sort of since learned to be more aware of that. Yeah, and she walked out of that pub and never spoke to me again. Sad, huh? It's just because I didn't read it right. Didn't have that attunement. Why shouldn't we do centering? Well, you can do a little bit of mobilization, but a full freeze response is a trauma response. Okay, often people are over sort of diagnosing a freeze response. If someone's in a real freeze response, it's like they properly need like sort of therapeutic help. A full freeze response isn't in the coaching domain. That's trauma. Yeah, it's not. Sometimes a little bit of it, you can go, okay, we need to just relax, shake, mobilize, tap the body. Do we go into processing with clients? What do you mean process? What is process? Yeah, so we're asking questions and they're getting closer to their goals by answering those questions, and we're using centering to help them regulate. Okay, I'm not sure what process is. I think it's a term from sort of something else that we generally don't use the term, I don't think. What stimuli sets conscious stresses? Yeah, if you're coaching, you probably won't need to, unless you're trying to teach them centering, which you can separately, so they can then apply it in the coaching. So the stressor of coaching is probably just them talking about their problems. If you want to teach coaching, you could get them to flick underneath their nose. You want to try that now? Not very nice, is it? Underneath, not the top of the nose, underneath. Here, makes you go, yeah. You could get them to think of someone stressful but not traumatic. You could get them to pinch a pressure point on the hand. You could throw a tissue at the camera and they go, and a tissue on the other side of the world. Tissue is a Kleenex if you're listening in American. Okay. So there's a few gentle ones, often pull them. So if you want to, and it's quite nice, you're doing like 4 to 8 sessions with a client, it's probably quite nice to teach them centering at some point, like separate from their problems. You know? Good, nice questions. Words on this reminded me not to achieve too much. Yeah, like less is more. Like if you just listen to someone, they'll probably work their problems out. I was walking along with a friend the other day, and for 20 minutes I said nothing because I couldn't be fucked to coach them because I was tired. And after 20 minutes, they had like worked out all their own problems. And I literally was just going, I wasn't even really listening. I was sort of pretending to listen. Okay, so just like half listening kind of meant that after 20 minutes they'd worked out most of their problems. I was like sort of half loving attention, half just a bit knackered. I can't be fucked. Yeah, like 20 minutes of half attention and they'd worked out their big life problem. It's like we don't need much, guys. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes here's another question I asked someone the other day. My entire coaching is, so what do you want? That was my entire coaching with someone the other day. Are you on the phone, Debbie? No, you're not. And you've got your hand. I thought you were on the phone. So, my bad. I'm paranoid because someone did that the other day. Yeah, my entire coaching was, so what do you want? And they went, that's a really good question. What do I want? Well, I was coaching someone and their boyfriend the other day, and I just went, this is a staff member that I'm a bit sort of dad-like towards because they're young. I was like, so is he good for you? That was my coaching. Is he good for you? Yeah, because I knew if I said, "Oh, he's a jerk, you should leave him," you know, I had an opinion on the fucking matter. Let me tell you, Daddy had an opinion. Okay, but my entire coaching was, "Is he good for you?" That was it. Like, you don't need to be a fucking genius, guys. That one question meant she rearranged her whole fucking love life. Yeah, just like a caring person asking, "Is he good for you?" Anyone ask a friend that one? Something like that. Yeah. Does he make you happy? You know, something simple like that. It's not fucking rocket science. Good. So loving attention, few clever questions, and a little bit of co-regulation. That is most of it. So everything you're going to learn now in the second part of Keck is a bonus. Like it's kind of like we need a few tools, right? Don't really though. Good. Last questions, then we're going to practice. Yeah, some people really struggle with the body. They need time, and the more in your body you are, the more you'll draw them into that field. Often people come to my live workshops, oh, really in my body. I'm like, yeah, you're surrounded by embodiment people. Yeah. How to go deeper? We see something in the kitchen. Yeah, you could ask them, right? So we have ask and we have tell. Tell is usually the last resort. So I noticed that when you said you loved your wife, you ran out the room crying. Okay, I noticed that you said when you really don't want to quit your job, you actually stop breathing. Oh, okay, I didn't notice that. So you could point things out, or you could say, you know, a bit more neutrally, what did you do in your body when you told me about your job again? You didn't notice? Okay, yeah, we often don't notice. Just tell me about your job one more time. What's your boss's name again? Okay, what did you do in your body that time? So you're providing a space for and pointing their attention towards, and in the last resort, just fucking telling them that's not it's not disallowed. It's not always smart. So sometimes people aren't quite ready for the thing, or they ignore you. But generally, we're in this humanistic frame of letting them discover for themselves. But we can point their attention. What did you do with your breath when you said that? Yeah, and it's not illegal to tell people stuff. Yeah, just be a bit cautious with that, because sometimes they're not aware of it for a reason, or they'll just tell you to fuck off and tell you they didn't do it. So. Good. Okay, enough of me talking. The whole point of today's practice. We've got half an hour practice. So what do you need to practice? What do you think? What do you need to practice? We've got options. What's the thing you most need to practice out of our basic skills? Contracting, worth practicing. Listening, worth practicing for a number of years, I would say. Questioning, or centering. Hopefully in your peer groups, you've already practiced all of these, or one of them you might be about to practice. But like in your peer groups, fucking just practice, please. Okay, like don't chat about the stuff. Just get on with practice. If anyone wants to chat, shut them down, interrupt them, mute them if you're the host. Just get just practice. Talking about coaching is not the way to learn it. Questioning, yeah. Okay, great. Let's do a quick. Which way around? I'll wait till a few more of you have said. So, you want to upvote each other's? Let's pretend it's a democracy. We call this Chinese democracy. You can vote for whoever you want, but I pick the candidates. So it's interesting because a lot of it just comes down to which you're arrogant about, doesn't it? I know how to do questions. I know how to listen. That's what it comes down to, really. All right, let's do the first one. Yeah, let's do a little bit of contracting. A little bit of contracting in the first breakout. So I want you to consult. You're going to be in groups of 3. Each of you will have 2 minutes to say what coaching is in the contract. And at the end of that 2 minutes, the third one will say what you might have missed. Does that make sense? In 1 minute. So it's going to be 2 minutes contracting, 1 minute feedback, and then the same. So it should take 9 minutes total. Does that make sense? Yeah, we're going to give you 10 minutes. So you've got a minute to fuck around, but it's still going to be pretty tight. So you're going to have to time yourself 2 minutes of contracting, 1 minute of feedback from the observer, and then rotate in such a way that everyone gets a go. Can I trust you to do that in your 3s? Yeah, you're going to have 10 minutes total. So let's do a little bit of contracting, because if you don't get that right, all the other skills are a bit fucked up on top of that. Let's do that, and then we'll come back and we'll do some questioning. I would recommend practicing more listening. If you want someone to practice with, your partner, if you've got one, or a good friend, will probably be okay to volunteer. If you say to someone, hey, can I just listen to you without interrupting for 30 minutes? Most people will fucking love that. That's sort of the easiest to get a volunteer for. Does that make sense? Just try listening without interrupting. It's a bit awkward at first because people are used to more backwards and forwards, but it's pretty easy to get volunteers for good listening to. All right, so groups of 3, please, Esther. 10 minutes, 2 minutes to contract, 1 minute for feedback, and then rotate that. Should give you a minute spare at the end. How'd you get on? Any questions? Keep this bit brief because I want to chuck you back in for some more practice. By the way, if you're able to come to this evening session just to practice more, okay? Because there'll be different things practiced, and just the more like listening skills and stuff like that. Just the more practice you get, the better. Yeah. Practice under a bit of pressure. Yeah, good. Did you send to yourself, Sabine? Yeah. Did you go? Oh, send the contracting because remember the influence has begun, right? Like at the beginning of the coaching, for the moment you say hello, right? Super. Final questions before I chuck you back in. Did not have the opportunity. Oh no! Who's in your group? Let's shame them. Did you not time yourself well? Super nervous. Yeah, I want to give you a little bit of pressure now because this is the time to get it wrong. Does that make sense? So this is when I say safe space, this is what I mean. I mean a place where you can be nervous and fuck up and there isn't a big consequence. So I'm into that. Yeah. This is where you do practice here, you do practice in the breakouts, you practice in your peer groups, and then you do practice on an unpaying person. Then eventually you do practice with a famous millionaire client. And even I get nervous when I do that. Okay, true story. So next practice, we're going to do some competition. Who likes competition? Woo! Bad luck, hippies. Okay, so here's the competition. We're going to do centering, 1 minute for each of the 3 people. And at the end of it, you vote on who was the best centerer. Okay, so this is the first 4 minutes. You're not going to talk about it. You're just going to say who was the best. What's the criteria for best? It's not who has the nicest face or dress or house. It's clearest operational language, most centered themselves, and most original. You're not allowed to do ABC or tetrarchy. Okay, so it's like you're centering. Please don't do what would be the not allowed. You know what? Any physical centering technique is fine. So that's your criteria. Everyone got the criteria? Operational language. So no open your heart chakra bullshit. Okay. They're centered themselves. So they're like, oh, we're going to do centering now. It's, hi, baby. We're going to do centering. Yeah, late night centering DJ. And what's original? Okay, I remember I did this to Russians once. They did snowman centering. I thought, I've never heard that before. That's so cool. They did like 3 centers like a snowman with 3 balls of snow that were icy cool in Russian. And I thought, well, that was really good. You know, I was really impressed by that because I didn't teach them that. Yeah. So that was my old colleague Vilya, who's now in Israel. So that's the first thing you'll do. That will take no more than 5 minutes. You get 1 minute each. Okay, 1 minute of bullshit, and then you vote who's his best. The next session, you're going to have, let's see, you're going to have 6 minutes. We'll take it right to the edge. Questioning skills. Here's how it's going to work. One person will describe a situation that's real for them, but not too hardcore, not too traumatic, like a 4 out of 10. It could be like, like one would be like, how can I stay well regulated in London? That's a real issue, but it's not like a big deal for me. Yeah. You then, the other 2 go backwards and forwards asking questions. Okay. And at the end of it, the person votes which was the best question. Does that make sense? So it's a competition between the 2 coaches. So I say, I want to become gay. How do I become gay? And say Jess and Daria are my 2 people. And they then ask questions, coaching questions to try and help me out. And at the end of it, I say Daria's question was the best about learning interior, you know, whatever. Okay. And she wins. Does this make sense? Yeah. Okay. So, and then you swap around, obviously. I haven't actually worked that out in my head, but you'll figure it out somehow. As long as you all get a go at questioning is the main thing. So competitive centering, competitive questioning. The spirit is very much fun and learning and lightness. Have a good time with it. If you get stressed, that's fine. Center yourself. Make sense? So we're going to go 12 minutes. 12 minutes. So like 6 minutes for each bit. So fast and furious. No fucking around. Esther, same groups of 3. Go for it. If you've recreated the groups, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think they've gone into the same group.
That's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Oh, you see, different, isn't it? Good.
And Chloe and
good. We don't have time, I'm afraid, so I'm going to mute you. So yes, we just have 1 minute. All good. There's some fun games you can play with your peer group. So the competitive question one's quite fun because you can sort of try crazy questions and bombard them. Who was a winner? Who won the centering? Won the centering? Adam won. Anyone else win? Cindy? Chloe, well done. What made your center? What made centering good? Let's just do this to wrap up for 1 minute. What made centering good? Was it clear? Was it calming? Was it fun? What was it? Clear, calm, effective, fun and calming. There we go. Fitted. That's a nice word. Fitted. I like that. And last one, then, because we're on time. What made the questioning good? What made a good question? Use the stuffed toy. Yeah. I once used a dinosaur with a 5-year-old Israeli boy. Helpful. Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately what matters, isn't it? It's helpful. It's a helpful question. That's the key thing. But what made it helpful? Promote insight, directness. Yeah. Did you also notice that every question is biased? So if you're coaching someone on, the imaginary bad boyfriend again, and you say, "Do you think he's a dick?" See, that's not a neutral question. Yeah, there's no such thing as a neutral question. This is where coaching isn't quite as humanistic as it sometimes makes out. There's always an assessment behind the question. Okay, so lots of skills to practice. Do have fun, but do practice. Please look at your diaries and figure out how you're going to practice with your peer groups, with friends, with volunteers. I'm around for another minute if you need questions, but otherwise we're on time, so I want to keep those boundaries. So good practice session. Hope it was a good review at the beginning. Well done. Cheers, everyone.
Quick shout out, Certificate of Embodiment Coaching, our flagship course, helping coaches work skillfully, safely, effectively with the body. The super early bird rate for that is about to end, so jump on that if you're listening to this at time of recording, embodimentunlimited.com, or just Google Certificate of Embodiment Coaching. So it's all there, all the details, the dates, the times, the different teachers, the content, it's all there. Have a look online. This is the thing we do best. I am not primarily a podcaster. I'm a teacher of embodiment coaches. So if you like this, you're probably going to like that. Go take a look.